everybody. Welcome to Studio 64. My name's David. I've been searching the interzones for some more science, space, and tech news to share with you. And I found this over at Indy 100. Yes, Siberia's gateway to hell is now so big it can be seen from space. This should be interesting. One of the most striking natural formations on the planet, known as the Batagayka crater, but also called the gateway to hell, is getting so large due to climate change that can be seen from space. Yeah, sure, climate change. The enormous geographical feature measures a huge 200 acres wide and 300 feet deep in the Yana highlands of Siberia. Now, it originally formed as a result of previously frozen methane gas being released from under melting permafrost soil, and things are speeding up faster than expected due to the impact of climate change. My personal opinion, rubbish.
I smell bullshit.
Climate change, it's ridiculous. This vision of man-made climate change. The climate has always changed. Stop bloody telling people and instilling them with fear. We were supposed to be dead 20 years ago due to ice caps melting. I remember in the late 60s, early 70s, I grew up with documentary after documentary about a new ice age was coming. We're all going to freeze to death.
At least 8 times in the past million years, it has advanced and retreated with clockwork regularity. If we are unprepared for the next advance, the result could be hunger and death on a scale unprecedented in all of history. What scientists are telling us now is that the threat of an ice age is not as remote as they once thought. During the lifetime of our grandchildren, Arctic cold and perpetual snow could turn most of the inhabitable portions of our planet into a polar desert.
Then that didn't work. In the 80s, it was the ozone layer. We needed 95 billion plus sunblock to stop us from being bloody zapped because the ozone layer was bloody being depleted.
And now, ozone in the news. The atmosphere around Earth includes a high layer of ozone gas. The ozone absorbs many of the sun's ultraviolet rays, the rays that cause sunburn. In this way, the ozone protects us from the worst effects of these burning rays. Recently, scientists discovered a weak spot in the ozone layer over Antarctica, the icy continent at the South Pole. Satellite photos show that a hole opens for a few months during Antarctica's springtime. Scientists aren't sure what causes this weakness, and they're worried that it might happen over a populated area. They say increased ultraviolet radiation through a hole in the ozone could raise temperatures, damage farm crops, and cause a lot more sunburn.
Then in 1992, a young lady stood before the United Nations, and her name was Severin Suzuki, and she was 12.
Hello, I'm Severin Suzuki, speaking for ECHO, the Environmental Children's Organization. I am afraid to go out in the sun now because of the holes in our ozone. I'm only a child, yet I know we are all in this together and should act as one single world towards one single goal.
Well, a quarter of a century later, we're still here. And every year it changes. Greta Thunberg gets on Twitter in 2018 and says we're all going to be dead by 2023, according to climate scientists, and she had to remove the post. Because of climate change, we're all going to die. It never happened. Frozen methane, I'll give you some unfrozen methane. You can kiss my fat hairy backside and pay for the privilege.
Concern about air quality usually centers on pollution, as in the ironic observation, if you can't see it, don't breathe it. Increased reliance on coal is a crucial part of the Carter administration energy program, but the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee heard warnings today that a coal-burning society may be making things hot for itself. Nelson Benton reports.
The so-called greenhouse effect is created by carbon dioxide, a colorless, odorless gas. In small concentrations, it helps to sustain almost all life on Earth. The relatively small amounts of carbon dioxide in the Earth's atmosphere filter the warming rays of the sun to the Earth's surface. But like a greenhouse, carbon dioxide also prevents heat given off by the Earth from escaping into space. Researchers say increasingly large amounts of CO2 are accumulating in the atmosphere. They fear the Earth will gradually become warmer, causing as yet uncertain but possibly disruptive changes in the Earth's climate.
I smell bullshit.
Fascinating. Anyway, in fact, that's just my personal opinion. In fact, the rate of the greenhouse gas methane being emitted into the air is a subject of a new study which explores the alarming rate the process is speeding up. It is a natural phenomenon. Dear oh dear. According to the authors of the study, which was published in the journal Geomorphology, the crater will leak all of the remaining methane into the atmosphere. Where else is it going to go, for a start? And secondly, how do we know this isn't a normal process that 5,000 years ago it wasn't doing the same thing? You don't have records of that time. So, you know, there's the gateway to hell. And, you know, how do we know? It's like, no, this could be happening 1,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, it'll be happening 100 years ago. People would be unaware of it. But what, it's new? Now it's happening? I don't think so. But as usual, I'll leave the link to the main article below the video so you can pop in, check out the embedded links, go for a bit of a deeper dive if you want. It does make for an interesting read. But hey, look, if you're pro climate change, that's great. It's just my opinion, all right? And I'm sticking with it. The experts involved developed a 3D model of the crater, looking in depth at how the permafrost has melted over the years. The lead author is a glaciologist, Alexander Kizrakov, that said that despite the fact the permafrost has nearly melted fully, revealing the bedrock beneath, it could still continue melting and releasing harmful gases. The dramatic geographical process is having a big impact on the local ecosystems. Now, Nikita Tananeyev from the Melnikov Permafrost Institute in Yakutsk, who was not a contributor to the new research, told Atlas Obscura this will lead to significant alterations in the riverine habitat, and the effect of sediment escaping the slump, the Beta Geica crater, is even seen in the Yana River, the major river in the vicinity. Now, this lateral expansion is also limited by the proximity of bedrock, the top of which apparently rises to the saddle between the nearest mountains about 550 meters or 1,805 feet uphill. I always say I'm not a scientist, but in my personal opinion, I think this climate change stuff is ridiculous because, as I said, how do we know this wasn't happening 500 years ago? You know, or 5,000 years ago? And it's just another cycle in the process of planet Earth. You know, so this man-made interference to me is just complete garbage. Now, that doesn't mean I want the place polluted. If you want clean air and clean water, that's fantastic. But terrifying and terrorizing people with climate change nonsense. You know, as I've said, we're all supposed to be dead by the year 2000 because the ice caps were going to melt. No, sorry. And putting these 2030 and 25 zero emission targets? No, absolute rubbish. But that's, again, just my opinion. All right, well, my name is David. Thanks for joining me for another Studio 64 Science, Space and Tech News update. I shall see you in the next one. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe. I'd greatly appreciate you. If you're up for it, drop a comment down below the video because I'd love to hear what you think. All right, take care. And as I always say, if you can't be good at it. And as I also always say,
I'll be back.